My name remains Matthew Ocheleka Itodo. Our topic for this moment is buffer. We'll be talking about buffering system of the body. Buffer solution is one that resists pH change on the addition of small quantity of acid or alkaline. The normal physiological pH of the body is 7.4, and buffer solution of the body will try all his best to resist any change that will make the body move towards alkaline or to cause the body to move towards acidic level. And we say that such solution is used in the biochemical experiment too. But for this case, we are looking at the buffer solution of the body, where the pH will be accurately controlled. For a body to maintain a state of normal health, the pH need to be accurately controlled to maintain the pH of 7.4. Body fluid must be protected against changes in pH. For a state of good health to be maintained, the body fluid must be protected against any change in pH. The body pH must remain in the neutral level of 7.4. You know, most enzymes are very sensitive to pH. That when the pH of the body becomes acidic, as the pH is low, so many metabolic pathways, some of the enzymes will be turned off. The hormones will not be able to bind, and so many abnormalities will result. And when the pH of the body moves towards alkaline, means the pH is high. There is also a problem of clinical conditions. And so we proceed that during metabolism, acid and base are produced. The metabolic pathways, protein synthesis, protein degradation, metabolic process for generation of ATP, catalytic enzymes, and so many reactions within the body. Acid is produced and bases are also produced. So in the long run, excess acid or base need to be eliminated for the body to, since acid will be produced, base will be produced as a result of metabolic process, then we need to eliminate excess acid and excess base via the kidneys and the lungs. So in short, the body is protected against pH change by buffering system. So acid produced by the body are carbonic acid, sulfuric acid, phosphoric acid, lactic acid, citric acid, ammonium acid, ketone bodies. And these are the ketone bodies. If you mention ketone bodies, one of the ketone bodies, acetic acid, beta hydroxybutyric acid, and so on. They are all ketones bodies, and they are acid that is produced by the body. We have, for the sake of this buffering system in this class, we'll be discussing about 3 different kinds of buffering system in the body. And one is bicarbonate buffer. And bicarbonate buffer is the major extracellular buffer. Means bicarbonate buffer work at the extracellular level. And if you mean by extracellular, we all know say that there is cells in the body. And a fluid surrounding the cell, we refer to that fluid as extracellular level, extracellular fluid. So at that region of outside the cell, around the cell, the fluid that surrounds the cell, extracellular buffer is working at that level. 2. 2 of a phosphate buffer. Phosphate buffers is a major intracellular fluid in the body. Intracellular fluid is a fluid that is inside the cell. If extracellular fluid is outside the cell, then the fluid that is inside the cell, we refer to it as intracellular fluid. And this intracellular fluid in the body, it protects the body against pH change. So with the help of the phosphate buffer, the help of the phosphate is much abundant, is very high at the intracellular level. So phosphate buffer will help to protect the body against the pH changes in the cell. And a buffer consists of a weak acid and also an its salt and the conjugate base. So every buffer that will be seen, that we'll be talking about in this class, it will have a weak acid and its salt and also a conjugate base. Well, what we mean by conjugate base means proton acceptor, means it's a base. Example of such: acetic acid. This acid, it can release a proton and also have a conjugate base. This sodium acetate will also do the same. Or a weak base, and the example of a weak base and it is salt is ammonium hydroxide and then ammonium chloride. So this example of acid, of a weak acid, and example of this a weak base, take note as we proceed. We move ahead, and I told you earlier that for the sake of this class, we'll be talking about 3 buffering systems in the body. One I have earlier mentioned is bicarbonate buffering systems. We say we have 3 buffering systems in the body, and we are starting with bicarbonate buffer system. Bicarbonate buffer system, it comprises of a solution of carbonic acid and bicarbonate ions. Listen carefully now. This is the carbonic acid. Why this one is the bicarbonate ions? So whatever the area the reaction will proceed will determine whether the pH is high or the pH is low. So carbonic acid and bicarbonate ion participate in a reversible reaction. They say the reaction is reversible. If the reaction is going towards the carbonic, it is determined by the pH, and or the reaction will go towards the bicarbonate, it is determined by the pH. But at this level, if everything is at the reversible reaction and in the balance equilibrium, is in the equilibrium like this, means the body is in a state of normal health or physiological condition of the body of the pH of 7.4. We move ahead. The direction of the reaction determines whether it is rises pH or lowering pH. So the direction, if the reaction will proceed like this or the reaction will reverse back, will be determined by the rising or lowering of the pH. So the lowering the pH is very, very important in the body, whether the body is moving towards equilibrium or it will move towards high pH or low pH. Now, this is an equation. I told you earlier this is a carbonic acid and this is a bicarbonate ions. Now, look at it now. Lower pH by releasing the protons ion. To lower the pH of this body means for the body to move towards this acidic level, then the body need to release proton. This proton need to be released from this reaction. This proton need to be released because the body is moving towards acid now. So the concentration of the acid level the body is moving now is high. But look at it now. If there is a rise in pH, the body is rising in pH, means the body is moving towards alkaline, then there is a need to bind to the protons. Because the body is alkaline now, so they need acid, so they need to bind to acid. It means Every acid in the system now have to be retained to balance with the rise pH, so that the body will not be too alkaline. So the body need to retain the acid by binding to this proton ions, and the same thing happen here. Bicarbonate buffering system. We continue. The bicarbonate buffer system coordinate with the lungs and the kidney to help control pH and CO2. Now listen carefully now. In order to bicarbonate system, this is the bicarbonate system, as the name implies, this is it. In order to coordinate with the lungs and the kidney, now it helps to control pH and CO2. So it means the bicarbonate need to collaborate with the lungs and the kidney in order to regulate pH and the CO2. Now, this is what it means. We go back to this reaction, I will explain this to you. Now, this CO2 is in the blood already, and then they dissolve oxygen in the blood. The reaction of this oxygen and the reaction of this CO2 and the dissolved oxygen that is in blood, that form bicarbonate ions. In which this dissociate to form carbonic ion. In which this carbonic ion dissociate to give you bicarbonate ions in release of a hydrogen ion. And now we say, in order for this bicarbonate ion to coordinate, in order for this bicarbonate ion now to be able to help, in order for this bicarbonate buffering system now to be able to help to control pH and CO2, which is in blood, it need to coordinate or collaborate with the lungs and the kidney. How? This is how it happens. To lower pH, the kidney need to excrete bicarbonate ions. And to raise pH, the kidney need to excrete proton ions, and also the lungs have to excrete CO2. Now look at this diagram. Look at this carefully now. At this level, this normal pH of 7.4. If the pH lower towards this side, we have acidosis, and if it moves towards 0 here, that means death of that organism. Then here we are having we have carbonic ion, while here we are having bicarbonate ions. This is the major buffering system. And if the pH tends to move towards this high pH here we have alkalosis, but if you move here, it is dead. So if the pH proceeds this area is dangerous, if it proceeds in this direction is dangerous, it means it must be balanced for the body to maintain good health. Now we'll be looking at the phosphate buffer system. Phosphate buffer system. Now it's a solution of hydrogen phosphate ions and dihydrogen phosphate ions. Now this dihydrogen phosphate ions, if it's in a reaction and dissociate, it gives you hydrogen phosphate ion and proton ions and hydrogen ions. Now looking at it carefully, as we have explained the bicarbonate buffer, the same thing happens here. The reaction that proceeds to liberate this hydrogen, it decreases pH because there is more acid in the body. The acid is higher. The acid is higher. The acid is higher. If the acid is higher, means it decreases pH. And those to the left increase pH. But if it decided to move towards, this left,